Commander Vex'thar of the Krell Dominion had seen 300 cycles of warfare. He had witnessed the fall of the Meridian Empire, orchestrated the siege of Thalnoon 7, and personally directed the annihilation of 12 lesser species who dared to challenge Krell's superiority to SO when his intelligence officer, a nervous wreck named Piptalk, burst onto the command deck waving a datapad like it was on fire. Vex'thar barely looked up from his tactical display. Sir, you need to see this immediately. Pip, if this is about the humans again, I swear by the ancient voids I will have you reassigned to waste reclamation. Piptalk's 3 eye stalks drooped. It is about the humans, Commander, but this time it is different. Very, very different. Vex'thar sighed, a sound like wind through a graveyard. The humans. Those ridiculous bipedal creatures from that backward water world called Earth. For the past 2 months, they had been nothing but a minor nuisance on the outer rim. Poorly armed. Laughably organized. Their ships held together with what Krell engineers suspected was literally just optimism and reactive polymers. What could possibly be different? Did they finally surrender? Please tell me they surrendered. No, sir. Piptalk's voice dropped to a whisper. They intercepted our attack on mining colony Theta 9. We outnumbered them 40-1. And they won, sir. The command deck fell silent. Even the perpetual hum of the ship's quantum drive seemed to pause. Vex'thar slowly rotated his command throne to face his intelligence officer directly, all 4 of his eyes narrowing to dangerous slits. Repeat that. Slowly. They won, Commander. 40 Krell warships. 6 human vessels. The humans suffered minimal casualties. We lost everything. Vex'thar stood, his massive frame towering over the smaller officer. That is mathematically impossible. Our shields alone should have, I have the combat logs, sir. And the transmission they sent before engaging. Show me. Piptalk activated the holographic display. Grainy footage materialized, showing 6 human ships, scarred and battered, facing down a Krell armada that blotted out the stars. The human vessels looked like scrap metal held together with prayer and spite. One of them appeared to be actively venting atmosphere from its port side, then came the transmission. A human voice, male, with an accent that the translator struggled to process. Control, this is Captain Jake Harrigan of the UHSF Reckless Abandon. We have visual on Krell forces. Estimated 40 capital ships, maybe more. They are blocking our route to the colony. Another voice, female, crackling with static. Copy that, Reckless. Command suggests you fall back to defensive position Gamma and wait for reinforcements. ETA 4 hours. A pause. In that silence, Vex'thar could almost feel the human thinking. Negative, Control. Colony has 3,000 civilians. Krell bombardment pattern suggests they will level the settlement in 15 minutes. We do not have 4 hours. Captain Harrigan, you are outnumbered and outgunned. This is a suicide run. Another pause. Longer this time. Then, clear as the void of space, the human captain spoke 4 words that would echo through Krell military archives for generations to come. Hold my beer, Control. The transmission ended. Vex'thar stared at the hologram. What does that mean? Hold my beer? Is it a battle code? A tactical directive? Piptalk consulted his datapad, eye stalks weaving in confusion. Our linguistic algorithms cannot parse it, sir. The translator suggests it is an idiomatic expression, possibly cultural. But the context makes no sense. Why would he want someone to hold his beverage before combat? Play the rest. What followed defied every principle of military strategy Vex'thar had ever learned. The human ships did not fall back. They did not attempt to outmaneuver. They did not call for backup or negotiate terms, they attacked, but calling it an attack was like calling a supernova a light breeze. The lead human vessel, that pathetic wreck called the Reckless Abandon, accelerated directly toward the Krell flagship at speeds that should have torn its hull apart. No evasive maneuvers. No defensive posture. Just raw, idiotic acceleration straight into the teeth of the enemy formation. They are going to ram us, the Krell fleet commander had reported, voice tight with disbelief. All ships, defensive fire, target the lead, but the humans never rammed. At the last possible microsecond, the Reckless Abandon twisted, dumping every ounce of power into its lateral thrusters. The maneuver was impossible. It violated at least 7 laws of physics and probably offended 2 more. The ship slid sideways through space like a ground vehicle on ice, presenting its broadside to the entire Krell fleet while simultaneously unleashing every weapon it possessed: railguns, missiles, laser batteries. Something that looked suspiciously like a modified mining charge. The Reckless Abandon lit up like a star-going supernova, and the Krell flagship simply ceased to exist, vaporized in the opening salvo. Impossible, Vex'thar breathed. Their weapons should not have penetrated our shields. Watch, sir. The other 5 human ships followed their captain's insane lead, each executing variations of the same suicidal maneuver. They did not fight like a military force. They fought like maniacs who had collectively decided that physics was more of a suggestion than a law. One ship used its damaged atmosphere leak as a makeshift thruster, spinning like a top while its gunner somehow maintained target lock and picked off 3 Krell destroyers. Another ship, the audaciously named Probable Cause, appeared to deliberately take fire on its starboard side just to get close enough to board a Krell carrier. Through some unholy combination of magnetic grapples and cutting torches, a human strike team breached the hull, fought their way to engineering, and overloaded the reactor core. The carrier exploded, taking 4 nearby Krell vessels with it. The humans escaped on stolen Krell fighter craft, whooping and hollering like they had just won a sporting event rather than survived an engagement that should have killed them all. The battle lasted 7 minutes. When it ended, 37 Krell ships were destroyed or disabled. The remaining 3 fled. The 6 human vessels, despite looking like they had been through a mechanical thresher, were still operational. Barely, the final transmission from Captain Harrigan was equally baffling. Control, this is Harrigan. Colony is secure. Krell forces have been neutralized. We are going to need a tow truck and probably a mechanic. Also, tell Jenkins he owes me 50 credits. I told him the lateral thruster thing would work. Vex'thar watched the recording 3 more times. Each viewing made less sense than the last. This cannot be real. It must be edited. Fabricated. A propaganda trick. Sir, we have confirmed reports from 14 different Krell vessels. All survivors tell the same story. The humans are. Pip-Talk hesitated, searching for words. The humans are not fighting like they want to win. They are fighting like they have already accepted death and decided to make it entertaining. Entertaining. Vex'thar's voice could have frozen stars. They destroyed 40 warships for entertainment? No, sir. They destroyed 40 warships because 3,000 civilians needed help, and waiting for proper military response was too slow. The entertainment was apparently incidental. Vex'thar sat back down, feeling suddenly ancient. 300 cycles of warfare, and he had never encountered anything like this. Every species followed rules. Even in the chaos of battle, there were patterns, predictabilities, logical progressions. You assessed strength, calculated odds, made rational decisions. Humans, apparently, looked at mathematics, laughed, and did whatever they wanted anyway. What are they? Vex'thar asked quietly. What kind of species produces warriors like that? Pip-Talk pulled up another file. I have been researching their cultural databases, sir. What I found is troubling. More troubling than what I just witnessed? Potentially, yes. Humans have a saying, Commander. Multiple sayings, actually. They seem to have an entire linguistic category dedicated to this behavior. Hold my beer. Watch this. Hey y'all, check it out. What is the worst that could happen? These are all phrases that precede monumentally stupid and inexplicably successful actions. That is insane. Yes, sir. I believe insanity might be a species-wide characteristic. They also have something called extreme sports, where they intentionally risk death for enjoyment. And social media challenges. And a food item called hot wings that they eat competitively despite causing physical pain. Vex'thar felt a migraine developing behind his secondary eyes. Are you telling me that we are at war with a species that voluntarily inflict suffering on themselves for fun? That appears to be accurate, sir. And their military tactics are based on the same principle? Also accurate. Vex'thar spent the next 3 days reviewing every scrap of intelligence the Krell Dominion had gathered on humanity. What he found did not inspire confidence. It inspired existential dread. Humans, it turned out, were a species that had somehow survived despite their own best efforts to extinct themselves. Their history was a continuous parade of terrible decisions that somehow resulted in technological advancement. They had split the atom by accident while trying to understand chemistry. They had invented space travel because 2 of their tribal nations were having a competition about who could throw objects higher. They had weaponized literally everything they had ever touched, including sound waves, light particles, and on one notable occasion, bees. Weaponized bees. Sir, the War Council is convening, Pip-Talk announced, interrupting Vex'thar's spiral into despair. High Command wants your assessment on the human threat level. Vex'thar straightened his uniform and walked to the conference chamber, where holographic projections of the Krell military leadership waited with varying expressions of concern and irritation. Grand Admiral Zormuth, a scarred veteran of the Meridian Wars, spoke first. Commander Vex'thar. Explain how 6 primitive human vessels destroyed 40 of our warships. And please, do not waste our time with excuses. I cannot explain it, Grand Admiral. At least, not in terms that follow conventional military logic. The humans do not fight like any species we have encountered. They fight like they are trying to prove something to themselves rather than simply win battles. Elaborate. Vex'thar activated his presentation. Combat footage from Theta 9 played across multiple screens. Observe their tactics. No species willingly accepts damage to achieve positioning. It is inefficient. Yet humans do exactly that. They treat their ships as expendable resources and their own lives as acceptable losses in pursuit of objectives that are often not even strategic. At Theta 9, they had orders to retreat. They disobeyed because civilians were at risk. Not Krell civilians. Not military assets. Just people. So they are irrational, another admiral muttered. That makes them easier to defeat, not harder. Respectfully, Admiral, I disagree. Irrational opponents are predictable within their irrationality. Humans are something else entirely. They are creatively reckless. Every encounter generates new tactical variations. They adapt not through careful planning but through what they call winging it. Winging it? Making decisions in real time with incomplete information and excessive confidence. It is a fundamental aspect of their combat doctrine. Grand Admiral Zormuth leaned forward, all four eyes narrowing. You sound almost afraid of them, Commander. I am not afraid, Grand Admiral. I am concerned. There is a difference. Fear is emotional. Concern is tactical. And my tactical assessment is that humanity represents a threat level we have not properly categorized. Then enlighten us. What threat level would you assign? Vex'thar pulled up another file. I had our xenopsychology team analyze human behavior patterns. Their findings are disturbing. Humans possess what they call a spite drive. When threatened, many species retreat or negotiate. Humans become vindictive. They will pursue vengeance even when it is tactically disadvantageous. There are documented cases in their own history where human military units, when surrounded and facing certain death, chose to charge their enemies rather than surrender. Not for strategic gain. Simply because, and I quote, if we are going down, we are taking you with us. The conference chamber fell quiet. Several admirals exchanged glances. Furthermore, Vex'thar continued, warming to his subject, humans have a cultural concept called Florida Man. This is apparently a designation for humans who engage in particularly reckless behavior. After reviewing thousands of incident reports from this region of their planet, I have concluded that Florida Man is not an anomaly. Florida Man is simply what happens when you remove the thin veneer of social restraint that prevents all humans from acting on their worst impulses at all times. This is absurd, an admiral protested. You are suggesting that an entire species is one bad day away from total chaos? Not suggesting, Admiral. Stating. With evidence. Would you like to hear about the human who fought off a shark attack while surfing, received medical treatment, and then returned to the water the same day? Or the human who attempted to pay for fast food with illegal substances? Or the human who stole an alligator and tried to teach it tricks? Or the hundreds of humans who filmed themselves eating hazardous chemicals for social media recognition? The admiral stared in stunned silence. Pip-Talk raised a tentacle hesitantly. If I may add, sir, humans also have something called the Darwin Awards. These are posthumous honors given to humans who die in spectacularly stupid ways, thereby removing themselves from the gene pool. It is presented as comedy. They laugh at their own deaths, an admiral asked weakly. Enthusiastically, sir. Grand Admiral Zormuth stood, his massive frame radiating authority. Enough. This philosophical discussion is pointless. Humans may be reckless, but they are still technologically inferior. We will crush them through superior numbers and firepower. Commander Vex'thar, you will lead a fleet of 200 vessels to the human home system. You will demonstrate Krell dominance and force their surrender. Am I clear? Crystal clear, Grand Admiral. However, I must formally register my concerns about this approach. Humans have a saying that applies here. Do not poke the bear. What does that mean? It means, Admiral, that some opponents are more dangerous when provoked. I believe humans are such an opponent. Noted and dismissed. You have your orders. Execute them. 2 weeks later, Vex'thar found himself commanding the largest battle fleet he had ever assembled, approaching Earth through the asteroid belt humans called Sol System. 200 warships. Enough firepower to sterilize 3 planets. Against a species that had barely achieved faster than light travel a generation ago, it should have been a massacre. It should have been simple. It was neither. The first indication that something had gone terribly wrong came when his sensors detected human ships approaching from multiple vectors. Not fleeing. Not hiding behind their planet's defensive satellites. Approaching. With active weapons locks. How many vessels? Vex'thar demanded. 37 confirmed, sir. Mixed classes. Several appear to be civilian transports that have been hastily retrofitted with military hardware. Civilian transports? They are sending cargo haulers against a military fleet? Yes, sir. Wait, we are receiving a transmission. A human face appeared on the view screen. Female. Young. Wearing what appeared to be a leather jacket covered in colorful patches and symbols. Her smile was disturbingly confident. Krell Fleet. This is Captain Maria Volt of the UHSF, absolutely not compensating for anything. On behalf of the United Human Space Force, I have been authorized to deliver the following message. She paused, smile widening. Get off our lawn. Is she joking? Vex'thar asked incredulously. I do not believe so, sir. Wait, multiple power signatures detected. They are charging weapons. All ships, defensive formation. Prepare to return fire. We will not be intimidated by these primates. But the humans did not fire. Not immediately. Instead, every single one of their ships activated what appeared to be communications arrays, broadcasting on every frequency simultaneously. Music began playing. Loud, aggressive music with incomprehensible lyrics about fighting, survival, and something called rock and roll. What are they doing? An officer asked, genuinely confused. I think, Vex'thar said slowly, they are playing their battle hymns. Humans do this. They use sound to intimidate enemies and motivate themselves. That is primitive. Yes. But watch their formation. The human ships were not arranging themselves in any recognizable military pattern. They were spreading out seemingly at random, each vessel taking an independent vector. No coordination. No unified strategy. Just 37 ships going 37 different directions with their music blaring and their weapons hot. Then Captain Volt spoke again, her voice cutting through the noise. Hey Krell. Hold my beer. And the humans attacked. What followed could not be adequately described as a battle. Battles had rules. Battles had logic. This was organized bedlam orchestrated by madmen and women who treated space combat like an extreme sport. Human ships weaved through Krell formations, too fast and too erratic to track effectively. They used debris as cover, asteroid fields as weapons, and their own damaged vessels as battering rams when ammunition ran low. One human pilot, upon depleting all munitions, apparently decided to fly directly at a Krell dreadnought and eject at the last second, letting his unmanned ship impact at relativistic speeds. The dreadnought's shields failed. The hull cracked. Atmosphere vented into space. The human pilot was recovered by a passing frigate, gave a thumbs-up gesture to the camera, and was back in a replacement fighter within 10 minutes. They are insane, Vex'thar whispered, watching his fleet fall apart around him. Completely, utterly insane. Sir, should we retreat? Vex'thar looked at the tactical display. 57 Krell ships destroyed or disabled. The humans had lost 8 vessels. 8. Against 200. Yes, he said quietly. Sound the retreat. Notify High Command. The humans are not a minor threat. They are an extinction-level event wearing a smile and carrying experimental weapons. We cannot defeat them. Not like this. Not ever. As his remaining ships limped away from Earth, pursued by whooping humans who treated victory like a party, Vex'thar understood something fundamental about the universe. Some species evolved through natural selection. Others through technological advancement. Humans had apparently evolved through sheer spite and a complete disregard for probability, and now, the galaxy would have to deal with them. Hold my beer, indeed.